law-abiding man, but he had a passion for the arts. Besides his love of cooking, you would find him enjoying many art classes here. Among his favorites were basket weaving, wood carving, and painting, and several others. He and our mom, Molly, were also part of the founding members that helped catapult Cedarhurst to where it is today. When it came to food, Gino knew quality. And when he found something great, it became a staple in his kitchen, no matter what the distance where that food came from. We are happy to share with you today 3 of his favorites. First, the homemade ravioli and sauce you'll be having is from Mama Toscano's on the Hill in St. Louis. It's a 3rd generation Italian family business, and Gino was a regular there. The desserts are also from St. Louis on the Hill, from the Missouri Baking Company, another 3rd generation Italian family business. The owner, Mimi, just told me yesterday when I was there how much she misses Gino, and that he was a regular in the neighborhood. Those were his people, as he called them, and he loved sharing stories with them. Finally, the Italian bread you'll be enjoying is made daily and flown in fresh from New York. It was one of Gino's guilty pleasures, and we couldn't be without it today in his honor. Enjoy.
Everybody, it's so nice to see you all today, all the familiar faces, and thank you for joining us in this celebration. If I may direct you to the back of your program, the menu is themed as one that Gino would prepare and cook for us at home. And it's prepared here for you in the museum's kitchen, which was named in his honor many years ago. The wine that we're serving is complimentary of the Ron Rubin Winery in Sonoma Valley. Ron, a Mount Vernon native, and Gino were great friends and highly respected each other. We're also serving his favorite beers from Wisconsin. He loved the fishing and the motorcycle trips he took up to the North Woods with his buddies. And several of you are here today. Also, if you prefer another brand or a different drink, the museum has other selections for you. We will be releasing tables in groups of 4 to the buffet, but first we would like to invite the tables with our speakers so they can get a head start. For those of you unable to go through the service stand-up line, the catering service will come by and service you. While the speakers are presenting, feel free to move about to get another drink, a dessert, a bathroom break. We want this to be casual and comfortable setting for you. Finally, at the bottom of your program, on the back side where the menu is, you'll see a QR code that will direct you to the website to view and purchase photos that were taken at this event. The photographer is happy to take personal photos of your family and friends if you'd like, and she's here. We do appreciate you all in attendance for joining us, and it's just really humbling to see all of you, and I'm sure this is the tip of the iceberg of Gino's friends and family. So thank you very much.
As you may know, today would have been Gino's 84th birthday. He was the most handsome Italian stallion flanked between 2 gorgeous sisters. He is preceded in death by his older sister Ida, who is represented today by her son David Shakwa and his family from Naples, Florida. Please stand up. Both of her children, Deb and Linda, all of her grandchildren, and their spouses. They flew in yesterday from Seattle and Portland. Would you guys stand up? And I would like to take a moment to recognize one one more person Gino highly respected and thought the world of. During World War II, he was a radio operator on a B-24. He flew between November 1944 and April 1945 and is the last surviving member of his crew. He had some truly unbelievable stories. He will be 97 years old tomorrow. Frank Davidson, where are you? Would you please stand up so we can honor you? Finally, this inner circle, 200 people of Gino's inner circle, you were Gino's extended family. So we would like to toast to you and the loved ones you've lost in Gino's honor, to your health and prosperity. Salute alla familia. And now we'd like to invite the speakers and your tables to proceed to the buffet.
I think that would be us. I'm failing at night.
It's all right. I'm a middle school teacher, so I'm used to people talking over me. I'll wait for a moment. What a great picture and what a great pleasure. My name is David Glasgow, as they call me, Cos. I'm a nephew of Gino's. As I look out at all of you, I'm really glad to be here and to have the opportunity to say a few words about my uncle, Gino Federici. Today, on his 84th birthday, we come together to remember a sad event last Thanksgiving. But that event has led to this better place, this joyful celebration, this happy remembrance of Gino's good life. So in the real sense, today is good. By giving thanks for having him in our lives, we celebrate another Thanksgiving this year. So, welcome to you all. Welcome to all of Gino's friends. Welcome to all of Gino's family. Because in a real sense, to be Gino's friend was to be a part of his family. How best to remember Gino Federici? To paraphrase Dickens' Christmas Carol, in his time here on earth, he became as good a friend, as good a family man, as good a boss, as good a man as this good old town knew in this good old world. Molly and Toni and Mary and me and Michael tell me about the many times when they'd go out to eat, and Gino would call the waitress over. He'd point at other people who were eating, he'd say, "Give me that check, give me that check, give me that check." Don't say anything. Someone might protest in the family, said, "Dad, business is tough right now. You can't be spending all this right now on all these people." He'd answer, "Well, I'm in a better place than they are." And he always believed it. He believed he was a fortunate son. Every now and again, I'd call Gino and tell him a joke I'd just heard, or see if he had one to tell. He always had one to tell. "Ciao, Cugino," I'd say. Well, he wasn't my cousin, but I just liked the sound of Cugino. It sounded like his name. And then we'd enjoy trading the jokes. He was also a man of nearly infinite number of creative talents, and a man with, obviously, a seeming infinite number of friends. The many of us who dined at the Federici house remember the osso al buco, the fettuccine, the ravioli you're having right now, things he just invented. Try this, he'd say. You'd be transported to Italy and its heavenly food. Gino was also a great partner, a great husband, a great devoted family man. He was there when you needed him, and he gave you room when you needed that too. He was great with young people. He was strict, but not judgmental. often quiet, but very direct in his values and lessons. You knew where he stood, and he never wasted words and actions. It did. Here's an example. Nobody likes to fail, but there is a lesson in failure if you're willing to learn. And Gino always had a way of getting you back in the game. In the summer of '76, I was in the dumps. I'd just failed college the first year. Everyone was out of town. So Gino called me over to paint the 4-foot tall fence. Long fence that stretched down one side in front of the house at 4 Grand Place. Well, it was an awfully long fence, but that didn't stop me. No. What did stop me was that Gino had a shelf full of history books, a refrigerator full of beer, and an empty house for 9 hours. So, I'd read all night, sleep all day, had a beer or two before, and promptly that afternoon at 4:15 I'd wake up and start painting that fence. Just before Gino got home from the scrapyard. So after 4 or 5 days of work and 4 or 5 feet of fence painted, Gino came home and he said, "Get the car, we're going to the airport." I said, "Okay, where are we going?" He said, "We're not, you are, Fort Knox." So off I went to Army ROTC, basic training and 6 weeks of discipline, routine, learning how to follow orders. I still got up at 4:15, but it was a different 4:15. But it straightened me out. I learned how to get up after I'd fallen and how to get going again. Good lesson. His daughter, Mary Catherine, tells another great straighten up and learn your lesson story. She begged Gino once for a phone. Instead of having to use the house phone in the kitchen next to everyone in everyone's ears when she talked to her boyfriend, she wanted one in her room. Gino finally said, okay, got her a pink princess phone, laid down one rule: no calling after 9 o'clock. You have no business talking after 9. You got work to do, time to get to bed. So about a week after she got the phone, he came in the room and said, okay, Mary Catherine, it's 9, hang up. Okay, but she kept on talking. 5 minutes later, he came back. He said, it's after 9, hang up. Okay, and those of you that have teenage daughters know exactly what that okay means. So nothing. A minute later, he came back in, didn't say a word, walked past through the wall, took the cord, yanked it out of the wall. They were hardwired those days, wrapped it around the phone, walked out. She never saw that phone. But she learned that no meant no, and she learned to keep a commitment. I mean, that stood her very well in the last 20 years in business. So good lesson. Sounds tough, but we all knew his warm side, his personal touch, his gift for making you his best friend. Friend after friend have said in the 7 months since he's passed, you know, Gino and I had something really unique. Gino was a really special friend. And everyone is telling the truth. No hokum, it's a real deal. Gino made you a special friend. You did have a unique relationship with him. He made us all feel really special. Really valuable. And that we were really something good. He was the master of the lost art of listening. Which reminds me of another piece of advice he gave. To succeed, take the opportunity to make someone else's pain go away. That's the way he worked, and that's the way he lived. So I'll close with this. All those times when he picked up all those restaurant checks, remember, he always had the reason why at the ready. Well, I'm in a better place than they are. I'm sorry to say, but he was wrong. We're the ones who are in a better place. We're in a better place because we loved, and we're loved by Gino, our friend, our boss, our father, our husband, uncle, brother, in-law, cousin, our fortunate son. So, ciao Gino. Ciao caro Gino. And when the time comes, I look forward to sharing Gino's heavenly meals and eternal friendship in the better place. Thank you so much.
He always took me to a real nice breakfast. He knew every restaurant sent to us, I think, and he'd go back in the kitchen, and he'd have a little to-do with the owner, the waitress, and you know, all. One night, we went to Garibaldi's, or I think Bud, Garibaldi, and for a hockey game. Buzz and I and Gino, and Ed Keys, and our waiter had a ponytail and an earring. Well, Gino wasn't one not to say anything, so we get up to pay our bill, and Gino, this guy's big. Gino taps him on the shoulder. This guy turned around and looks at Gino and said, that guy likes to rear end. I thought, man, I'm in trouble now. But anyway, we went to one of the highlights, Gino. Hal was there with me when Gino finished his chemo. I think it's 44 straight days of chemo at Simon Center. And they'd come out there after the last day and they'd ring a bell. You've probably seen that on TV, you know, John Fine knows about it. They'd ring a bell when you were done. And there'd be people in this waiting room, they'd all stand up and clap for Gino, well, not just for Gino, but for anybody that rang that bell. It was something to see. There was a lot of tears in that room. But we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of more trips with Bill Mullen, Chef Lee. We've been quite a few places with him. I just, that was a joke. Anyway, we had a good time. Gene and I go to bed early at night, and we always laid the phone right in there between us, so big bed. And about 10:15, 9:30, phone rang. I'd say, who is it? I knew who it was. Who is it? He said, I always call him Gino. We kind of had a thing, Gino Federici. Gino. He said, what do you want? I said, I just want you to have a good night. That was special. It still is. He still sleeps at home between us. I know he's not going to call. He might.
For several years, and we were co-chairs for one of the first summer concerts, and that was, I think, 30 years ago, and I was only 19, and we had the Mighty Mississippi River Band concert coming to perform that summer, and it was stinking hot. And Gino and Ken, one of our staff members, was helping put up the portable stage. And they were hammering and connecting. And as I said, it was hot and humid. They were dripping sweat. And I was standing in the shade with instructions and in my hands. And Gino looked up and said in a soft voice, you know, you're kind of bossy. That's when we really became friends. Gino was a man, as you heard said, was a man of quiet influence, a man who could speak silence, but very effectively. A few years later, when we were no longer administrative counselors, I was on staff here, and Gino would pop in occasionally. One day, he brought a man in with whom he was doing business and had some free time, and he asked him, he said, you want to go to the museum for a little bit and see what we have here in Mount Vernon? Well, as it turned out, the guy happened to be an art collector, and when he saw our permanent collection, he was amazed and enamored, and the man became a good supporter of Cedarhurst. And when he heard about our collectors club, he and his wife joined the club. Well, at that time, Gino and Andre Heinen, whose wife is sitting here this evening, were co-chairs of the Collectors Club. They traveled to various communities and cities, Chicago, Indianapolis, Louisville, in Kentucky, searching for artists and fun places to dine, and you can imagine that Gino would have known all those fun places. So on those trips, we learned a lot, we had fun, we often purchased a piece for the permanent collection. The gentleman that Gino had brought in a few months before ended up giving us a very nice piece of art for our permanent collection. In addition, he gave us some great financial support. What a difference Gino made with that introduction years before. When we were in a capital campaign, Gino was on the committee. He brought a friend in with him who could help. Gino just walked in and sat down and didn't say a word after introducing us to Lawrence. And we talked a little bit and chatted about the project. The man ended up giving us $500,000 for the campaign. Those are the people that Gino knew. What a difference Gino made for that campaign. When Cedarhurst had fundraisers, and I'm talking a lot about Cedarhurst because that's where we kind of got acquainted and became good buddies, we had a fundraiser called, it was a series of parties in homes, and the people would give the home, give the party, and Gino and Molly did many. His dinners were the first ones to sell out even before we got it in print. And it was not a cheap dinner. But Gino said, we're raising money for the museum, let's do it. What a difference he made. I think about Gino, and what does G stand for? Great-hearted, generous, gracious. I think a giant of a man in a teddy bear suit. I mentioned in a casual conversation one time when Gino was there that I needed to get a new pepper mill. Well, guess what? The next day, Gino shows up with a pepper mill. If someone mentioned that they were sick or someone in the house was sick, when I was taking care of my husband, Gino came over some soup. He didn't often say anything, he just knocked on the door and handed it to me. Gino would call sometimes when I was at the museum. Ring-a-ding-ding, Mrs. Executive Director.
Yeah.
I said, Gino, it's Mrs. Bradham to you. Dinner at 5. Can I bring Pete? If you have to. What a difference Gino made in all our lives to all who knew and loved him. What a guy. Thank you.
The entire Federici family and friends, my name is Lee Conway, aka Chef Lee. As Gino would call me, hey, Eugene. How it went down. Our relationship started in 1995 at a meeting at the Hyatt Hotel at Union Station. Gino was a board member along with 10 others from the scrap metal industry. Gino was a soft-spoken and most respectful. In hindsight, he focused on every aspect of the food and beverage service throughout the meeting. The meeting went excellent. Sometime later that year, John Finan was invited to a chef's table to dine with me and the Hyatt staff in the kitchen. I prepared a meal, explained each course, and dined with our guests to develop a new business relationship. Well, months later, myself and the general manager and our wives were invited back to John and Patty Finan's house to reciprocate for a true Creole feast. When we arrived, lo and behold, Gino was behind the scenes servicing the guests, and helping the kitchen with the kitchen duties, all along being very cordial. I still have to have a little chuckle thinking of the general manager leaning over to me that night and saying, "Do you think he works for them?" Or kind of, "What's the deal with this guy?" That's what Paul was really saying. I don't know from there how our relationship developed with 20-some-year age gap. I'm thinking because I smelled most of the time like food. One thing I do know, where there was scrap metal or food, Gino was close by. Over time, I was very lucky to be introduced to Gino's network, as everybody had said, his inner circle. Gino's sidekick, Lee Meyers, who you all met, who when they were together, it was like that Lucy and Ethel show. Gino being Ethel, and Lee being Lucy. I got to meet wonderful people like Bill and Carla Mullins, the 1997 Harley anniversary, the Glassmans, and pie and ice cream. Because if you knew Gino, they were two of his loves, pie and ice cream. The entire Shapiro family and his most prized possession, his wife Molly, 4 wonderful children, son-in-laws, and grandchildren. He was a very proud man. I have many stories, memories, and travels with a soulful, compassionate man who loved all things in life. The memories, stories, and life of Gino will always be alive until the last person that knew him has passed. He always treated my wife, Colleen, and our children like royalty. I'm most thankful for being able to call him my friend. May God bless the entire Federici family, and may peace be with you all. Happy birthday, buddy.
Tribute on behalf of my brother John Sokluck, who could not be here because of a problem with his airplane getting here from New York. So, Laura and I do everything together, so she's here to support.
Microphone.
John is charming and most humble of all his nephews. After introducing me as, "This is my favorite nephew," you know, not like that guy Cos. In any event, and all kidding aside, when I sit down to write something to say here about Gino, I thought for a long time about what the purpose of this gathering was, in addition to seeing Molly and my cousins, drinking good booze and eating great food, which, don't get me wrong, is enough to lure me to what many consider the cradle of civilization, not unlike Mesopotamia or, in Missouri, Herculaneum. But I think what Toni and Aunt Molly had in mind were some stories that we could share to remind us all of the unique gift that we all had been given by the presence of my Uncle Gino in our lives. The year is 1982 or 1983. I was 17 or 18 years old and going to school at the St. Louis Priory, an all-boys school taught by Benedictine monks. What this meant was fairly simple. I was about as worldly as Forrest Gump before the box of chocolates. In my mother's wisdom, she arranged for me to work at both Shapiro Brothers locations, the one in Festus and the one, as George Bush once described it, as a kinder, gentler scrapyard. So I was here for that summer, and every day I would go into work with Gino. Every morning we'd stop and have breakfast. then in his infinite wisdom, Gino would give me a daily task, the low man on the totem pole stuff. He'd then have lunch brought in, or we'd go and grab something, and then back to the yard for the rest of the day. And all along the way, he talked to me about the value of a complete day's worth of work, a fair wage, treating others with respect, the importance of family, and very critically, how a person's word defined that person. And for a guy at my impressionable age, watching how Gino interacted with the guys in the yard did make an impression. And the impression was, here's a man of his word. If he gave you that word, it was ironclad. Here's a man who has perspective. He didn't sweat the small stuff. He had the long view on life. He was a person you wanted to be like, to copy, to imitate. One evening that summer, Gino and Molly were invited to a dinner party at one of their friends' houses. They asked me to come along. I gladly accepted. I mean, other than the daily post-work trips to Dairy Queen, where Gino would buy me a Mr. Misty and try to get the drive-thru girl to go out with me. Look, he's pretty cute looking. We can clean all that black crap off his face. Other than Dairy Queen, not much of a socialite here in the cradle. So anyway, we're at the dinner party and someone comes up to Gino and says, "Hey Gino, I need to leave and your car is blocking me." Gino turns to me and asks me to move the car, but he says, "John, the car is on a pretty steep hill, and if you want me to do it, I will." Well, I'm thinking to myself, I'll show him. Steep hill, ha! I snatch the keys from his hand, puff out my chest, and boldly, and I mean boldly, walk out of the door a la Steve McQueen. 6 minutes later, McQueen finds himself in a ditch, having rammed the car into a tree. It was so bad that McQueen had to exit from the passenger side window because the driver's side of the car was wedged against one of the larger trees here in North America. Needless to say, a long walk back into the house full of guests. I handed Gino the keys and sheepishly explained the situation. The result, Uncle Gino came out, said something like, "Shit happens." He pried the car out in about 45 seconds and explained that the next day that he and I would get estimates of the repair costs. And that's what we did. And then he asked me how much I wanted deducted each week from my paycheck. To pay him back. And after 2 weeks, he stopped making any deductions. The things I learned from my Uncle Gino about how to be fair and honorable in life and how to trust your fellow man, no matter his lot in life, have been with me always. And I try my best to pass those important lessons on to my children as well. And while I miss his magical and magnetic personality terribly, I know that I've been privileged and blessed to have walked alongside a truly wonderful human being. Thank you, Aunt Molly, for giving me the opportunity to share a story or two. I love you very much. If I had a military cap, I'd toss it in the air for you.
Gino moved to Mount Vernon over 50 years ago. He owned and ran a business started by my grandfather over 100 years ago, and now the ownership has passed to his grown children. Gino and Molly had a wonderful marriage. They were truly life partners. Long before the growing role of female business owners and executives, Molly ran a number of successful businesses, including PFS. Gino was very supportive of Molly's ventures. Gino was also a wonderful father and grandfather. He was a great listener and judiciously gave advice. For all of us here today, Gino was a great friend. He did a large number of acts of kindness, support, and consideration. High on the list were the wonderful meals prepared and devoured at 4 Grant Place. Molly and Gino were Sandy and my first friends in Mount Vernon as a married couple. We shared the same anniversary, July 1st. and happily celebrated many of those anniversaries together. We will always remember the Fed's 50th anniversary in San Francisco. On a very personal level, there was a very casual photo taken probably 40 years ago of Gino, Sam Shaw, and my dad in the Bahamas. In the pictures that have been going around, that's one of the pictures here. Mary and Leslie Shaw call this picture the Three Amigos. I hung that photo in my office, and now it is in my home. Whenever there is a problem to solve or address, I look at that photo for guidance. Gino lost the battle with COVID. He will live on in our memories, as well as in the lives of his children and grandchildren. Rest in peace, Gino. You are now with the Three Amigos.
I want to extend our condolences on your loss, our loss. But I'm so glad to have had this opportunity to celebrate Gino's life. The stories shared and the personal traits and character describe Gino well. I first met Gino after we moved to Mount Vernon from New Orleans in 1976. When Michael and Sean, our son, were playing on my car convertible, and Michael stepped through the rear windshield. The rear windshield needed stepping through, by the way. Gino called to apologize and invited me to join him and friends for dinner and to watch a boxing match in St. Louis. We learned that we had similar values, common interests, and became fast friends. We were warmly welcomed into the Federici and Shapiro families, and they were welcomed into ours. Their friends became ours, and ours theirs. Gino enjoyed life. We often shared stories, laughing at each other, our friends, and ourselves. He told me the story of when he had first bought his motorcycle, very proud of his new Harley Davidson. Went tooling around town, down to the square, stopped at a stoplight, gave the requisite hello to the guy in the pickup truck next to him as if to say, I know you wish you were me. Motorcycles, when they're moving, want to stay straight, but when they're stationary, you have to hold them or they tip over, which is there. He then had to get the guy in the pickup truck. Because these puppies weigh about 700 pounds. There were many stories like that. We enjoyed many of the same things and had so many different and fun experiences, mostly involving cooking. And Chef Lee told you a little bit of the story about that. The gourmet club dinners, cooking for the craft fair or for family, or the archbishop and priest at confirmation. He taught me a lot of Italian, and I taught him a little Creole. The number 40 is pronounced 40. Right. that yellow stuff that you spread on bread is butter. Whenever I talked to Gino, he'd somehow work into the conversation, are you still using butter? Because we use a lot of butter. But we mostly shared lessons of life, the good and the not so good. Gino and I were both Mary Kay husbands at one point in our lives. Pat and Molly hold records for the shortest tenure as married. I used to tell Gino, you're going to look cute in a big Cadillac. Molly never did produce a big Cadillac. I'm happy to say it. He was happy to say that as well. But they then became partners in Physicians Filing Service, and we were so proud of what they did and what they accomplished. We rode motorcycles down the Natchez Trace. Lee insisted that I ride his Harley Davidson. I'm sorry about the scratches, baby. But we thought it was a wonderful ride. This is a beautiful road. Patty and Molly were in the SUV with the trailer. They were convinced we were going to want to go home that evening rather than continue the ride the next day. Because we were trying to figure out how we had 2 or 3 more days to the trip. And then the cigar dinners at the Bogey Club. And Michael, I hope you'll continue to join us for that. Dr. Sicard and Dr. Lemon
lead that effort. And we've had some great memories of time in St. Louis, at least on an annual basis, to get together and smoke cigars, have scotch, and tell lies. All wonderful memories. Life is about faith, love, experiences, and relationships. Gino's life was about each of those things, all making memories, and I'm so grateful that he is part of ours. I understood that there was a definition of a man's success found in Leon Shapiro's desk after his passing. And it went something like this. Success is not the size of our house or what we drive, how much we have in the bank, or what we've accomplished in business or our career, but rather how our children describe us to their friends. Gino was a great success. And William Bennett describes friendship as more than acquaintance and more than affection. It usually arises out of mutual interest and common aims, strengthened by benevolent impulses that sooner or later grow. The demands of friendship for frankness, for self-revelation, for taking friends' criticisms as seriously as their expression through admiration or praise, for stand-by-me loyalty, and for assistance to the point of self-sacrifice, are all potent encouragements to moral maturation and even ennoblement. Gino was a true friend, and we are all better for having his presence in our lives. I'd like to close with an Irish blessing. May God bless him and keep him. May God's face shine upon him and be gracious to him. And may God look upon him with kindness and give him peace. Thank you. Molly and Federici children are going to come up and offer one more toast. So, thank you all.
I want to thank each and every one of you for making this trip today in honor of someone who loved, get clear, who loved being with people. My favorite man, Gino. My biggest gratitude goes to the 4 Federici children. When Gino passed and we were unable to have a funeral because of COVID, our children said, "We want to have a celebration of life for Dad." Good, but you'll have to do it because at 83, I don't have a stamina anymore. Stamina. The planning and time this took was astronomical. Besides running their businesses, they coordinated and seamlessly organized this event. The last 4 months, they planned and prepared this amazing celebration of life for their dad. They did 99%. I ordered the flowers. The process allowed us to heal, enjoy stories about Gino, and today is the final product. If you ever need a foxhole buddy, share it with these 4 leaders. Gino, you did it. You raised your children to run the Kentucky Derby and they won. A toast to Toni, Mary, Mia, and Michael. Thank you, and please stay and visit and share the stories as long as you like.
Thank you.